Hello, hello, Dr. John Yaakov Guderson here, the singing psychiatrist. Doctor, my eyes have seen the years. Yep, my eyes, your eyes, we've all seen all sorts of things. So let's take a look at this list of individuals. Ernest Hemingway, Demi Lovato, Kurt Cobain, Mariah Carey, Edgar Allan Poe, Virginia Woolf, the poet Robert Lowell, Vincent van Gogh, Mel Gibson, Robin Williams. These people unfortunately suffered. They suffered from bipolar illness, what we also call manic depression. Now, people come to my office and they'll say, Doctor, I have bipolar because on a Sunday, over the course of a few hours, my mood, it goes up and down and up and down. But that's not bipolar. That's what we call mood fluctuations. Now, bipolar means two, the two poles, bipole. The upper pole, hyper, manic pole, and the lower pole, deep, dark depression. So what is a manic episode? A manic episode is something that lasts about a week, not just on a Sunday. During that time, a person hardly needs any sleep whatsoever, and yet they have tons and tons of energy. They go out on spending sprees, buying things they don't need, stupid stuff. They become sexually promiscuous. They become very impulsive, start turning to drugs, alcohol, driving fast. In more serious episodes, they can become very grandiose and think that they have special powers standing perhaps on a tall building. Or they can have paranoid delusions. They also, somebody in the midst of a manic episode, they lack insight. They don't realize that they're in the midst of that manic episode because they feel great. They feel on top of the world. They say, don't bother me. I feel great. Now, a person can't be manic forever because there's the other side, the depressed side. And I've seen people with manic depression. The depressed side can be incredibly intense. These people can become essentially immobile. They feel tortured. Their mind moves into a different realm altogether. And then they begin to believe that the world would be better off without them. And they can become suicidal. There's different types of bipolar. There's what we call bipolar 1, which is more of the manic phase, along with depression. And then there's bipolar 2, which is a less intense mania, what we call hypomania. And it is predominantly the episodes of depression. These conditions require a slightly different treatment. As far as treatment goes, well, the gold standard is lithium. Now, I'm not a big medication guy, but I've learned over time that lithium and other medications for bipolar can make a world of difference. Of course, with lithium, one needs to be careful. You need to monitor kidney function and thyroid and electrolytes. And for the bipolar 2, the more depressed type, sometimes a different kind of medication like Lamictal would be advised. Obviously, you need to see a psychiatrist for all of this. But I've seen with people with bipolar, once you give them the right treatment, usually in the form of medication, it can make a world of difference. The last thing you want to do is to take their zest for life away from them. You want them to still enjoy life. It's the last thing you want for them to happen, to become dull to the world. But at the same time, you want to have their feet be firmly on the ground. What's wonderful also with this is the insight factor kicks in. People, once they are well treated, they say, I was acting a bit strange, doctor, and now I feel so much better. If you know of somebody who appears to be in the midst of a manic episode, and also in a deep, dark depression, what do you do? Well, oftentimes these people, they don't really want help, especially those with mania. So if you're a friend or a spouse, not only do you have to be aware of the telltale signs of a manic episode or a depressed episode, but you need to do the best you can to connect with them, to be able to connect with them so they feel that you're on their side, not just sort of preaching to them or dictating to them. But finally, somebody who has bipolar, they absolutely need treatment. This can be an emergency. It could be life-threatening. So you need to get them to a physician, a competent physician, usually a psychiatrist. You need to get them to an emergency room. because they can do devastating things to ruin their lives and ruin the lives of others. There's another thing I'd like to say here, because I've been talking a lot about the soul in my talks, my other talks, talking about positive psychology, that we need to be in touch with our inner self, our soul. We need to have a more positive outlook on life. But bipolar is a medical illness. And telling somebody, just get in touch with your soul, just be more positive, ain't going to work. It's not going to work with these people. It's a medical illness. It's there in our neurons. It's there in our DNA. And in fact, many people with bipolar usually have a family relative with bipolar. It's a medical illness just like diabetes. You can't just sort of think your way out of it. Again, good treatment from a competent psychiatrist is absolutely necessary. Once they begin to get better, then of course, to be connected with our soul, to be connected with our true inner self is imperative for good emotional and mental health. Doctor, my eyes have seen the years in the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want to understand. I have done all that I could to see the evil and the good without hiding. You must help me if you can. So if you know of somebody who's in the midst of a manic episode, and certainly in the midst of an intense depressive episode, don't just sort of let it float away. Be there for them and refer them to a competent physician.